John has a fit of rage, swearing while driving down the street, and ends up in an accident. Afterwards, a woman approaches him saying they don't have much time. John awakens to his daughter Emma saying she has an appointment. They go outside where Emma is building a fort to hide from the monsters. While reluctant at first to play in her imaginative games, after some convincing, he springs up to attack the monster that is dragging Emma away. Throughout the city, people settle into bed for sleep. After a strange clicking noise, spirits begin appearing all over the street. They go into the houses to grant people wonderful dreams. One of them visits Emma, who is not quite ready for sleep yet. Her grandma gently tells her it's time for sleep. An ominous feeling drifts over the street before shadows expand outwards. A static sound is heard as a man with a screen in front of his face appears in the shadows. The creepy man visits more people, bringing nightmares to anyone he visits, including John. A figure dressed in ragged clothes hobbles through the street. He enters Emma's room and taps her on the forehead. She awakens briefly but lays back down. Emma can hear him behind her and sits still, terrified. Alel bursts through the window, attacking the intruder, Ink. As they fight, everything they break immediately mends itself. Alel is beat to the ground and Ink picks up Emma. They fight once again as Emma tries to get help from her grandpa. More spirits appear, trying to help defend Emma. Ink beats them away and runs down the street with her. Other spirits appear to help, but Ink creates a portal and escapes with Emma. John blankly stares out the window before showering, shaving, and dressing himself for work. At work, his colleague gives him some bad news about a potential client. Ink walks down a dark, windy pathway, pulling Emma along. He tries to play his drum, but it is broken, angering him. Leave walks through a forest, playing with a bunch of children. She springs up, roaring at them. Jacob is heard counting 1, 2, 3, 4 over and over again when he trips and falls. Alel helps him to his feet, explaining that he is supposed to help her rescue Emma. Jacob calls her out for getting her ass kicked before suggesting they go to the other side to try and wake up the physical Emma. Alel calls it impossible unless you're a pathfinder. Playing a different drum, Ink enters one of the windows onto a street. Emma sits down, rubbing her foot in pain. Ink wraps some cloth around it and drags her again. Emma screams for help, but no one reacts.
Help! Help me, please!
When she tries to touch someone, a barrier stops her. Ink takes Emma into a room with a nightmare man, an incubus. He kneels before the incubus asking for help, explaining that his key is broken. The incubus sends him to find 2 carriers to gain access to the assembly, telling him that he only has a few hours. Leave walks through a field and plays her drum, teleporting her into the city. John is visited by Ron, Emma's grandfather. He tells John that Emma is in a coma with a weakened heart and that she needs her father. John blames Ron for having his daughter taken away from him, saying Ron made everyone believe he was unfit to be a father.
I don't even have a daughter anymore, remember? Those words ring a bell.
Ron says they only did what they thought was best for Emma. A voice in John's head manipulates him into anger. John reminds Ron that he wasn't in his wife's life for 15 years, only reappearing for the funeral. Afterwards taking Emma, perhaps to absolve himself of some guilt. In the past, John sells stocks, afterwards drinking and taking drugs to celebrate his success. He comes home drunk to his wife, Shelley. She tells him that he has a whole other life he is forgetting about. John continues to throw himself into his work until he's seen at his wife's funeral. Afterwards, a judge declares that due to his history of drug abuse and negligent behavior, he is unfit to be Emma's father. Alel explains to her companions, Sarah and Gabe, that Jacob is a pathfinder and they are to escort him. Jacob continues counting to 4 repetitively. She plays her drum, creating a portal, taking them into the hospital. Alel guides Jacob into Emma's room. She describes the scene in the room to Jacob, and he asks where Emma's parents are. Ink carries on with Emma when Leave appears, fighting him. While holding his hand away, she pulls down his hood, causing him to back away, fixing his rags. He adjusts a device on his arm, showing a pill he fed Emma earlier. He threatens Leave that he will kill Emma. Leave offers to go in Emma's place as a hostage. He kicks her down, holding his knife to her throat. At John's work, they strategize how they will win back a client that another company is trying to take. John assures his colleagues that he will meet with the client and win them back. John remembers being mocked by other kids as a child and his mom paying for their groceries with food stamps. The four watch John as they note he is being followed by an incubus. Sarah questions why one is here during the day. Liv and Emma trail behind Ink, and Emma asks if Ink is bad.
He's not good. What do you think? Does he seem bad to you, Emma?
Liv explains to Emma that she brings dreams to people. Emma asks if Ink brings nightmares, and Liv tells her not yet. After Emma says she's scared, Liv says she's surprised since she's a lioness, but that she may want to work on her roar. The conversation angers Ink, calling her a storyteller liar. They enter a factory when Ink is hit back before he chases after a man. The man picks up Emma, threatening Ink to stay back.
Roar!
Ink requests a code, saying he has a delivery for the assembly. The man says for the code he must give him something double the value. Ink offers some mysterious stones, which he eagerly takes while Ink takes the code. The man suddenly notices that Ink has Liv the storyteller, mentioning that she is worth quite a lot, a prize. John meets with the clients and assures his colleagues that as long as he shows up with the paperwork, they've got them back. On a street, Jacob counts to 4 again, over and over. Jacob explains that he is looking for links, one thing reacting to another like a chain reaction. Infuriated by his antics, Alel accuses him of wasting time while Emma could die. He goes on saying the downward spiral is a chain reaction. Weakness leads to guilt, shame, vanity, and eventually to destruction.
Something's gotta stop the flow.
Gabe and Sarah signal that John is on the way. Jacob says that Emma needs her father, and they will deliver him. He continues counting to 4 as people all around go about their day. Jacob opens his case to play some music as a boy holds out a bill which slips from his hands, setting in motion a series of events while Jacob dances around. John has a fit of rage, swearing. All the little events lead a man to run a red light, hitting into John. The incubus stands over John, the voice in his head, trying to convince him to wake up, to carry on the path he was set on. The 4 run toward the incubus, chasing him off.
Tick-tock. This man got robbed.
On a train, a younger John looks over at Shelley. She licks an Oreo and playfully makes a funny grin. Outside, Shelley's car won't start and John offers to help.
This is your problem right here.
Oh, thank goodness.
Check this out. Yeah, try starting her up.
They drive together and later play around at home. Ink has a meltdown, believing the storyteller has some plan, that she set him up. She points out that she is in chains and he is in control. She asks what he is afraid of. Noting his scars, Liv asks if he remembers how he got them.
It was suicide, wasn't it? I can tell from your scars your entry was painful.
Liv knows he was offered a numbness to his pain if he offered Emma as a sacrifice to the assembly. In exchange for his soul, he will become one of them. Liv asks Ink to try and see Emma as more than a sacrifice, believing he still has a soul. She offers him his hood back, telling him that all of their fates are in his hands. They carry on, arriving at a standing green door. Through it is a room with dried flowers and mannequin heads. A crazy lady within quickly throws on a veil and bows to them. She scowls at Liv, demanding to know who she is.
Her ugliness disgusts me.
Ink asks for the code, but Crazy Lady won't speak in the presence of Liv.
Oh, a candy.
Ow!
Liv tells Emma that the Crazy Lady is a drifter who was once a person. However, she refused both sides, that of the storytellers and the incubi. Ink tells Liv that Crazy Lady wants her hair as part of the deal for the code. Liv allows it without resisting. Ink stops the Crazy Lady, saying that's enough. The team rides along with the ambulance, taking John to the hospital. Alel wonders how Jacob does what he does. He tells her that he lost his sight, but feels the beat of the world and can change the path of people's lives. He then says John must embrace his shame for Emma to have a chance to survive. With similar-looking injuries, Shelley sits in an ambulance, John beside her. John tells Shelley he didn't know what to do, that he couldn't wrap his mind around the fact she was never coming back. Ink asks Liv why she doesn't fight back. She tells him that fighting would only blind him further. They go through the dark pathway with the windows. Ink believes that he is damned regardless of what he does. They enter a window and incubi approach, holding out hands on poles. Ink tells them that leave is an extra he brought for the acceptance. John, Shelley, and Emma play in a field of sunflowers. He awakens in the hospital and is told he has a concussion. He is told what hospital he is in and knows it to be the same as Emma's. The four watch John, knowing there is precious little time left. John's phone rings and in a panic he searches for it. On the spirit side, the lights flicker as multiple incubi approach. John slowly wanders out of the room. Meanwhile, Gabe tries to call in reinforcements but is unable to. Jacob leaves to gather reinforcements while Alel guides John along. Sarah and Gabe fight the incubi, trying to hold them off as long as they can. Alel and John enter an elevator. More incubi stand outside the doors and Alel begins fighting them too. John sees Emma's grandparents and heads to the room. Inside, Emma lays on the bed. Leave and Emma enter a large room with a bathtub in the middle. Leave tells Emma that she thinks Emma is a real lioness now, that she is no longer a little girl. Emma asks if she will get to see her mom again. Ink stands with his head hanging low as one of the incubus approaches. He stabs Leave in the stomach twice. Ink has proven his loyalty and his scars will be washed away. When the incubus tries to pick up Emma, she roars. But he takes her away anyways and places her in the bathtub. Leave tells Ink that she is here for him, telling him that he cannot see how beautiful he is. Ink tells her that he is ruined and wonders why she can't see it. Leave questions when he will recognize her, telling him that he doesn't have to choose this. Alel stands at the door, exhausted, preparing to fend off the incubi. In the hospital, John reaches out to Emma, touching her forehead. Suddenly, Ink holds his head.
When will you recognize her? Has your mind become so corrupted?
Scenes continue flashing. Emma's death and funeral, John drinking and collapsing, screaming in despair, and eventually his suicide. John becomes Ink and gathers some rags. Ink finally realizes who he is as Leave collapses and dies. He grabs Emma, taking her over to Leave. Alel holds the incubi away. Sarah and Gabe continue fighting, and Jacob runs down the street. John fights the incubi away from Emma and Leave. Jacob calls the reinforcements, and they help fend off the incubi. The remaining incubi run away from John. Emma stands up and approaches him slowly, and he asks for her forgiveness. She strokes his face and calls him Dad, asking what happened to him. She hugs him, and he holds her. John sits beside Emma's bed as she opens her eyes. She asks if it is him, and if she is dreaming, and he tells her that it is not a dream.